All right, welcome everybody to Stock Analysis Friday. Great to have everybody here. All right, so today we're going to look at stocks and ETFs that are of interest to you. And go ahead and type those in the comments area, and I'll just get to them before the end of the session. And let's do 3 at a time like we normally do, and type them in caps. And then let me know if you're long, short, or just, a potential that you're looking at. And that way I can customize the analysis for you. We're going to be using software that I created called the Applied Reality Trading Software to analyze the markets. And I've been doing this now for over 30 years. So I'll try to give you some really good advice from a technical standpoint. All right, so let me go through some of the administrational items. So let me turn this over here and we'll get going here. And I have to, of course, go through the risks involved in trading and start out there first. All right, so first things first, we want you to always realize that the markets, there's no guarantees in the markets. We deal in a realm of probabilities, so keep that in mind. So not every trade works out, and so therefore you need to use risk control on each and every trade. And also to always use money you can afford to risk called risk capital. That's super important as well. And then finally realize that past performance doesn't guarantee future performance. Hypothetical performance doesn't guarantee real performance. And of course, always check with your financial advisor or whoever manages your money to be sure any of the positions or recommendations we make today are suitable for you. I don't know your personal situation. They should. So I want you to treat this as kind of like not financial advice. All right, suggestions perhaps that you can run by your financial advisor and treat it more like an educational content type of thing. All right, so let me, a couple more things I just want to bring to your attention. I have a whole bunch of books on risk control, on trading. My newest book, The Art of Trading, second from the left, second edition, is about 608 pages, came out last year. So this is a fairly new book, and it covers risk control as well as a little bit about trading profiles and things of that nature. So that's available at Amazon. And I'll put the link for all this stuff up in the recording. We also have software. You can learn more about that. And I'll put the link in the recording as well. All right, give us a like real quick. Helps the channel. And also, too, if you're interested in a complete market breakdown of all the major indexes, I do that in a service called the MOR Subscription. It's a monthly service. Not expensive, okay? I think it's around $40 a month, but it breaks down the NASDAQ, the S&P, and the Dow. We go over Bitcoin, we go over real estate, and then it also has a stock picking service associated with it for free. So that's all included in the MOR report. And again, I'll put a link up down below. Now, also, too, don't forget, every month we have a Saturday trading education workshop. So that's on the second Saturday of each month. And it's at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And so that will be coming up soon in the month of March here. All right, I want to go over Bitcoin before we jump in here and just give you a little bit on that. So I'm going to go to full chart size here so you get a really good view of all the charts. And then I just want to bring up my pointer here and give me 1 second on that. And then we'll jump into this. If you're in Bitcoin, let me know, okay? I'd like to know who's in Bitcoin. All right, so Bitcoin's currently right around 68,500. So this chart I did on March 1st, which is last Sunday, and it's actually part of the MOR report. And I update it every Sunday to keep you advised. But since Bitcoin is such a popular market that people want to know about, I did want to include this market today. And basically, what I think's happening here is on the weekly chart on the right, this is going to give us a longer term perspective. This daily chart here on the left is more of like an intermediate and certainly shorter than the weekly chart. All right, so Ed, you have Bitcoin, right? I'm sure you're not alone, okay? I have it as well. All right, so basically on the weekly chart, we have a wave 3 that completed back in October. And then since then, the market has been pulling down into a classical wave 4. And I've labeled here, hopefully you can see that on the webinar, an ABC correction. And then now we're in C, okay? And in C, we have waves inside C wave, for Elliott wave people. All right. And so there are 5 waves in C wave. So if we go over to the daily chart, I've got these waves and fib calculations a little bit more defined here. And so my target for Bitcoin as a possible bottom here is between 56,848 down as low as possibly 45,206 with an order block and some sell side liquidity sitting right in the middle of that around 50,000. All right, so that should act as support down there. Now, I also think it's possible we could pop up here and continue. I don't think wave 4 is completed yet, so we could pop up into this wave retracement area, which is around 72,000 to 79,000. And then we should see more selling coming in, taking us back down to that target zone. So in addition to that, our software, the PTF, is indicating that this low has a high probability of being taken out, which would basically correspond to this fib target that we have down there. We have a bearish owl indicating we're still in 3 on the weekly chart of C wave. And we have a wave 3 inside the weekly C wave, even on the daily chart. So everything's pointing to possible retracement short term over the next couple of weeks, maybe month, and then another push down after that. So keep that in mind. Now, if you're long term on Bitcoin, what I would suggest doing is if you haven't gotten out already, all right, then obviously you're still holding it. You could start trickling in at any time at these levels or even lower. And I think you'd be happier because once we finish this correction, we should have a wave 5 taking out the high of wave 3, and that would be about over 130,000. So we're at 68,634 right this second. So that would still be almost a double your money, even if you got in at these levels. And if you want to kind of trade it a little bit better, then I would wait until it comes down into this level here. So I'm going to leave that up to you and your financial advisor. But the reason I say possibly trickle in is, what if I'm wrong? Okay. And what if this is the bottom and we take off from here? That's always a possibility you got to question yourself about. So if that's the case, then you'd be happy you trickled in. And so that would not be a bad model to follow. Trickle in a little bit now and then hold the rest on the sidelines if we get back down in this area. All right. So I just like to cover that because I think it's a big deal. And I think a lot of people certainly look at it. All right, Ed, how are you? Did your trade station get solved there? We had a little bit of a server issue, though we fixed that. It should be back online now. So everything should be cool now. All right, so let me just drop this down. And then we'll go ahead and get going on here. All right, one thing I do want to cover before, Ed, we get to yours is I've got Coinbase here. And Coinbase, we put in as a buy on the MOR report. And I wanted to share that with everybody because I'd like to give you guys one good one in case we can't find any for the rest of the day. And on this situation here, we had a nice pyramid trading point entry. We had a break with fair value gaps. We took out the pyramid trading point indicates a change in structure. And also, too, we got a green PTF over here. Now, the only thing standing in our way is this bearish fair value gap on the weekly, but I think they're going to turn that into an inversion. So I'm liking this setup here. We took out equity, as you can see here. Doesn't mean we can't go back down and take it out again. But when we take out equity and we have a very positive short-term daily chart with bullish fair value breakaway gaps and also flipping this inversions here, then that's usually an indication of an extremely bullish environment, and we'll probably head up. And if we get above this bearish fair value gap here, then we'll target up in here for sure. Okay, so that's one. It's an early entry, but I like it, and so that's why I put it on the buy list. So I thought I'd share that with everybody here too. All right, let's take a look at a couple of years here. SHOP, all potential longs. All right, let's see what we got cooking on this. All right, similar situation in that kind of to Bitcoin, except we have a bearish pyramid here. All right, and we do have a move above that. So that bearish pyramid was part of the downtrend here. All right, so that actually, you know, if you went short here, you'd be out here for a little bit of a profit. But now it looks like we're changing structure to the upside. So I'm liking that. All right, so let me just get a little bit more take on this. Nice retracement right down here to the fair value gap where we saw rejection, also to the pyramid trading point there on that order block, also held. We got one bearish one up here still as well. We took out equity here, and then we had the sell-off down there. All right, so the question is the sell-off complete? And certainly I'm going to draw a couple fibs in here, and I think it looks pretty good. So we hit the 50% mark there. We have a move up here. So yeah, I'm kind of liking it. The only thing I think probably I would wait for here is a pyramid off this. We don't really have a change in structure yet on the weekly chart. So I'd like to have a bullish pyramid on the daily. So I'm going to put that on a watch list, okay? But yeah, pretty close, I'd say. ALAB. Let's take a look at that one. All right, let's see what we got cooking here. Okay, so we got bullish pyramids. I mean, bullish PTF, which is our indicator here. All right, indicating more highs after the correction ends. We have a little bit of rejection here off this fair value gap. That's excellent. And I like the fact that it went all the way down into that one there. I don't think we'll go into here. I think this was a breakaway fair value gap, so I don't think we'll visit that one. So I'm kind of liking that. Again, what I'd like to see is a break in structure. We don't have a break in structure really yet. Okay, we had it here, and then it made a new low. So I kind of would like a pyramid to form in here as well. All right, so keep an eye on that one. But I do like the weekly chart, the fact that it respected that fair value gap. So we want to take a look at this one again next week. All right, let's go to your next one, Netflix. Okay, so this one, a nice reaction off this, but a little bit of rejection here. Okay, this concerns me, the red PTF. And also, too, the only other thing that concerns me here is a little bit of rejection off of here. I like that we took out equity here, but I'm not so sure if this isn't a manipulation up here based on the fact that the PTF is red down here and we're getting a little bit of rejection here. Nice bullish fair value gap here, no question about it. But if you look at this leg down, we don't have really too much of a change in structure. Small here, but really no change in structure on the weekly chart. So what I would anticipate possibly happening is we go back into this fair value gap, come back up, and then if we do that, then I would like to see a breakaway fair value gap on this leg up and possibly a pyramid. So let's hold off on that one, okay? Not quite yet. All right. Good one, so. Okay, and all right, so you have Bitcoin, good. And yes, it did. Okay, so your server is up and running. All right, so let's keep going here. All right, SWBI. All right, nice breakaway here. Okay, so you're currently long on this one, I assume. And there's no reason not to be long on this one, so stay on it. Now, if you're brand new, all right, then you got to be careful about FOMOing into this. You don't want to FOMO into this because we'll probably get a pullback at some point. And that's the only concern about chasing this. So let me draw fibs here and see if it's in the discount area. So right now, currently, it's in the premium area. So that is usually an area where I don't like to enter. I like to enter if I'm going to enter down in this area here. Okay. So, and you can see that also even on the weekly chart here. You can draw the same thing. And basically, you just take a fib and draw where the target is, basically, which is the new high up in there. So I would kind of wait on this, wait for a pullback. If you're long, no reason to get out. All right, you can put your stop pretty low under here. And what I'm thinking is we'll probably get some form of a pullback at some point, and that would give you a better entry, so to speak. If you went in now, you'd have to put your stop way down here. And if you notice here, we're right in an area where it had created some support there. So let's hold off a little bit on that, okay? But yeah, I think it's got possibilities for sure. In fact, let's look at that. Let's put that on the watch list for next week, and we'll see. Okay. All right. My goodness, is that everybody for today? Short day today. Oh my gosh. Going once, going twice. Jeez. I think it's one of the quickest ones we've done. 18 minutes. We're usually on here for hours. All right. Good. One more. FCX. All right. So I'm assuming you're long, Enigma. Are you long on this one or thinking of a long? Because what I would do with this one here, if you're already long, no reason to get out of it yet. Okay. Yeah, you're having a pullback, but I don't think it's going to be too severe. Okay. So stay with that one. If you're thinking about going into this, again, you don't want to chase this market. Wait, you probably will get a pullback, 55-ish. And if you're long there, I would stay with it. If you're trading the pyramids and you're really trading it and you want to get out, you'd be getting out at 58.95. Okay. Because that's assuming you got in on a leg up starting at 46. All right. But if you're long term, the weekly chart is saying you're still in wave 3. And this is a minor pullback inside of wave 3. Okay. All right. So you're thinking of it. All right. So what I would do on this is I think it's pulling back a little bit more. If you get a rebound from here, fine. But again, we would have been in on the break of this channel. Okay. And on these pyramids here. So this would be kind of chasing the market. I would say if it gets back to 55, let's see if we get some support there. And then that would not be a bad long as well. All right. Thank you. All right. Ed, IBM. All right. Let's see what we got cooking here. All right. So got a red PTF on the daily chart, indicating a high probability that this bottom is not the final bottom. So I think you got to hold off on that. Now, what's interesting over here is that you have some sell side liquidity sitting right under here. And I would imagine with this being red, this now red, we're probably going to take that sell side liquidity. Now, we could go up into this fair value gap here. So you could get up to 270 before slipping back down. But we're at 256. I don't think it's really worth going long to try to get up into that area. Okay, so no go on that one yet. Let's take a look at OKLO. All right, still slipping a little to the downside. Still have an active pyramid indicating a bearish trend is in place still. Hasn't broken yet. We're getting into an area where the order blocks were for this big leg up. So we're in a 50% retracement area. So I think a turnaround here pretty soon, but not quite ready yet. So if you wanted, we could put that on the watch list to keep an eye on it. When we get to like a 50% fib retracement, let me just draw this out for you, okay? So wave 2 here, you can see we've exceeded that a little bit. So we want to look for a turnaround, but we just haven't gotten it yet, okay? So bring this one back next week. All right, Constance, how are you? All right, LYB. Let's see what we got here. Ran away from me. All right, so you're still in the discount area, okay? And this is pretty strong here, pretty good. We got a green PTF here, no red PTFs. The target probably is up into this area here. We just broke structure here. Because you're still in the discount area, I think you can go long here, okay? So I think we can put this one down as a buy, and you're going to have to put your stop below this pyramid here. So 54.05, a little far away since we're getting in a little late, but my target would be up here at the top of this area here, like 101. So I think it's probably worth taking the trade on that. Good risk to reward on that still. Now, we did take out equity here. We may get a little bit of a pullback, but I think this is very strong, and I think probably we'll have another fair value gap in here as well. We got above this bearish one, so we inverted that one. This is a good one, okay? LYB. Just make sure your stop's not too close, okay? Dow, let's take a look at Dow. All right, still below the discount area. Pyramids there. Break out. No red down below. Equity taken. Yeah, I would say this is okay too, okay? I know you're getting in a little later than you want, but it's not bad, okay? And I would target at the very minimum 55.64, this liquidity area up here, okay? So that would be more of a longer term. Stop has got to go below, all right, at least here, okay, at the 28.92 mark. All right, good. All right, gold. Let's take a look at gold. All right. How many people have been in gold a long time? Hopefully you have. All right. So if you're in gold, there's no reason to get out. If you're thinking about gold, you've got to make it a long-term stance because you could get a 38% retracement at some point. I would not chase this at this point. Okay. So Jim, hopefully you're in it, okay, and been in it for a while. And if you're in it, that's fine. But you're going to get a retracement at some point. And we're seeing a little bearish divergence possibly beginning to create here, but we really don't have it yet. So, yeah, that's, looking bullish. I just don't like to chase the market. Yeah, gold for a long time. If you're in gold, you're doing great. Just great. All right. Let's take a look at LITE. All right, now you guys are bringing a lot of stocks in. This is good. All right, so okay, let's see what we got here. So a little bit of a pullback here. Still very bullish, but I'm liking the pullback. And you see, this is why I think if you look at markets, even like gold, where it's come up so much like this, and you're thinking about getting into it for the first time, you're really better off waiting for the retracement and then going in from a psychological standpoint. Because if you get in here, let's say you got in here at this one at 800, and now it's sitting at 600. Well, long term, you should be okay because this thing should respond, but it could go down 500. Then you're sitting there thinking, geez, I lost 300 points and got in at 800. That's a significant percentage down. Psychologically, that's going to affect you. So that's why I don't like to chase markets like this, even though they should continue bullishness. I like to wait for them to retrace and then get in. So this is still retracing, so I wouldn't jump into this yet, okay? But why don't we bring that in, keep looking at it every week until we get a retracement, because this is going to go up much, much further, okay? All right, Stuart, how are you? Exxon Mobil, XOM. Let's see how that baby's doing, considering gas prices are going up. All right, Sue. All right, so currently in a wave 3, we got a lot more distance to the upside on this one. Target zone for this, it's in no man's land right now. So I can give you a better target zone once we have a wave 4 retracement on this one. But if we take a look at the measured move on this, from here to here, watch this. Okay, you really haven't even gotten a retracement yet. So the measured move would put that at, 205, even if this sell-off continues on down a little bit. So that's kind of the target for right now, okay? All right, let's see what we got here. JCI. Okay, so we're coming down into this fair value gap here on the weekly. You can see them all here on the daily as well. And again, like this is a no man's land up here. So let me do quickly, let's just go back and take a look at all this history here. I'm going to do a couple things here. Okay, it hit its measured move on that one. Let's see if we can get one more. Yeah, okay, so it's met the measured move, but that's a very strong owl on the weekly chart. So I don't think this thing is done yet. All right. I think we could pull back into as low as maybe 120, 118, right around in there, fill that fair value gap on the weekly, and then head higher. Okay. If you want to, you can put a stop down here at 107. Okay. I don't know how substantial your gains are, but we should not go below that if this uptrend continues. If that gets taken out, then that's a change in structure, meaning a change in possible trend. So if you want to make a little bit higher here, you want to keep that in there. And then if we get a rebound and break this high, then your measured move is 182. Okay. Old Applied Materials, AMAT. Eleanor, I used to trade that 30 years ago. No joke. All right. Let's see what we got. All right. So you're long on these, I take it, right? AMAT watching, WFC, BE and long. Okay. So BE and you're in long. AMAT, I think you're watching. Okay. I think that's what you mean by that. So let's see what we got. Again, let's wait for a retracement. We're starting to see a little bit of it now. All right. So again, bull flag, just draw that down, wait for that to get broken. You'll probably get one more high since the weekly chart is so bullish. Okay. All right. WFC. So don't go long. If you're not long, wait for that trend line on the bull flag to get taken out. All right, let's see what we got cooking here. WFC, pulling back. Okay, so on this one here, we're not, we're still pulling back. We may go into a significant correction here down into the, 70 mark here, 65. So I would hold off on this one, okay? And BE or long and BE. Okay, a little bearish divergence there, fair value gap here, long wicks. Look at these wicks up here. I don't like that. Okay, one wick. Okay, two wicks. Now you're pushing it a little bit. So I'm thinking here, you got divergence here, you got divergence here, and divergence here. You do have a big fair value gap that could stop any type of retracement to see one more move to the upside. All right, but I don't know where you got in, but I can tell you, I think probably what you want to do here is I would, depending on where you got in, I would probably put my stop here on this. And if we take that stop out here, then we're going to go into the fair value gap and then see if this holds, because you can always get back in. But if it doesn't, then it probably is going to fill that whole thing and you can go back in at a much lower price. All right. Or if it changes trend here and goes down even further. So I would wait, because what I want to see here on this is, are we going to take structure out here? Because that's a change in structure there. And if that continues on and we take that out, then that's a total change in structure, even on the weekly chart. So I would protect my profits by putting my stop there. All right, Frank, how are you? IWM. Okay, so Frank's been short on IWM since 263, so you're in a little bit of profit here. All right, so red PTFs, okay, on both indicators, but those are significant red PTFs at this point. We've got a pretty good sized wick up here. We've got red down here. Now, this is kind of interesting. We're in a fair value gap here and an order block sitting right here. So if we get a bounce from here, you have no fair value gaps bearish here, okay? You could have one setting up here, but you don't have it there. And we did get a little rejection off here. So we're kind of in an area here where we're probably in the next couple of days, we'll know quite a bit more on what's going to happen with this, simply because if we can close below here, all right, and then below this pyramid here, then the next area, the next order block is down in here. So we'll have to wait and see, okay? I'd stay short for now. All right. Well, I would say, it depends on, where you want to, how much risk you want on this. If you want to put your stop up here and target down here, you could certainly do that. Okay, it's a heck of a risk to reward. And you could take a partial here and here if you want. Okay, take a little off here, take a little off here. Okay, that'll work if the structure changes. Okay, but if we get a move back up here and we drew a trend line up in here, then this is still an ongoing uptrend, right? So are you targeting super lows? Well, you broke the trend line there. So you're targeting super lows, then you wouldn't get out. Your target with your first partial is here, second partial here, third partial here, okay? That's the way I would do that. So my target, if I was really going for this, would be down here. All right. Let's see. Okay, a lot of people owning gold. Great. You know, it's funny. I remember when I was a kid, my brother, this is back in the 70s, was buying gold coins as part of his retirement plan. And he was buying the actual gold coins. And I thought they were kind of neat to look at because they were nice and shiny. But my gosh, he bought them, and they, you know, back in the 70s, he forgot what the price was. But to me as a kid, it seemed like a lot of money at the time. But he's held those darn things. He's still got them, and he's been buying them probably every year for the last, I don't know, 40 years. So pretty interesting. I don't know if he buys them really anymore, but he certainly bought a lot when he was working. So interesting. All right. Dash, DASH. So certainly, my point on that is gold has certainly stood the test of time. All right, Sue. Let's see what we got on Dash. Potential long. All right, let's see what we got. Not quite yet. All right. Still got a red PTF here. No change in structure to speak of yet. We did have a pop above here, but we have a very strong bearish fair value gap on the weekly. So let's hold off on that. Okay. Stuart, I remember Stuart when you were buying these. Costco still sell gold bars. Buy a Costco credit card, 2% back. However, no returns. That's pretty funny. All right. PAAS. Let's see what we got cooking there. Potential long here. All right. One thing I've noticed is that Enigma, you like markets that have broken away. All right. So that's kind of an interesting model that you're following there. Nothing wrong with that, but I find it interesting. So on this situation here, you have very strong movement here. The question is are you going to get a pullback, and can you withstand that pullback even if you bought in these levels here? So that's the question. What I think I would rather do on this, something like this, is draw a trend line for a bull flag on this and wait for a breakout above that for a possible continuation. Now, our software would have had you in on this leg after it retraced back in here. Okay. And you can see that on the weekly chart. So we're kind of looking, at this point, we're looking to exit the trade based on early entries versus trying to get in in a premium area. All right, CRWD. Let's take a look at that. All right, Ed, let's see what we got cooking here. All right, so we've got a pivot point here after taking a little liquidity out there and there. Pyramids no longer have you long. Profitable trade, though. All right, so we've got to move up off here. So no, I'm not convinced of the move up quite yet. So let's bring this back next week, okay? Frank, my pleasure. My pleasure. All right, so anybody else? So we got 3 so far, which isn't too bad. Let's take a look at silver. We haven't looked at silver yet. All right. So silver, okay, is actually one. This is another one I kind of like here. All right, so let me just recommend this one for you guys, silver. So on silver here, all right, we're right at the discount level to get in. We had a nice retracement. We got above these bearish fair value gaps. So they turned into inversion fair value gaps. And then we got a brand new bullish fair value gap, and they seem to be holding. All right. There's still a chance we could slip down a little bit further, but we do have a little bit of a change in structure here. You could wait for this new pyramid here. See how it's blue colored? That's an unconfirmed pyramid on price structure. So if prices get above that, this will turn into a trade. That will be a long trade pyramid. So you go long here, and then that would put you above the fair value gap as well. Okay. So if you wanted a super early entry, you could do that now. All right. Because you've already taken out any bearishness. And we have bullish fair value gap stop under here. Okay. So that would be okay for a long trade. If you want to be more conservative, wait for it to get above here. And then the only concern I have here sits down on this double bottom. A lot of people think, well, double bottoms are great. They can be, but they are also where everybody's stops are. So that's where the sell side liquidity is. So I wouldn't put it past the powers that be to take that sell side liquidity out before running it up. Okay. So that is a possibility. So silver, yeah, but we probably could give it a little more time. Okay. So I'll put silver on both the watch list possibly. And if you want to take an early entry, you could do it with that possibility of getting stopped out if they go and get that sell side liquidity. Okay. I mean, everything is pretty bullish. You know, we don't have a green colored owl measuring momentum. That would probably be green once we got above this pyramid. So everything is pointing to really waiting for that pyramid. I think what I'll do is I'll take that off the buy list and put that on the watch list for next week. Okay. Let's see what happens with that. Because even if you get in, it's at 75 now, even if you got in at 85, all right, that's not, you know, you're only getting in 10 points later, and with that much extra confirmation, it probably would be worth it. Because the other thing means if this bearish fair value gap holds and it takes out this liquidity, then we're going to be able to get in at like 65 probably. So that would be really good. So let's put that on the watch list, okay? After thinking that over, but it's bullish, okay? There's no question about it. It's just timing it. All right, anybody else? I'll go over the winners here in just a minute. Well, thank you everybody for coming. You guys are great. So when you're thinking about, you know, taking a trade and the market is way up in here, you know, let's just take silver for a minute. So when the market's way up here and you're thinking about getting in here, the risk you take is a pullback, even if you think after the pullback it's going to go higher. So you need to be a little bit, you need to ask yourself, okay, if I go in here, am I okay if it goes down here? And if the answer is yes, and you're long term and you really don't mind that, okay. But for me personally, all right, I don't want to FOMO into a trade where I should have gotten in here if it was, you know, if I was really on it versus getting in up here. Okay. And also too, a lot of issues with sector software. There's some sector software where basically it scans positive sectors and then points you to stocks in that sector. The problem with that software is that most of the stocks in that sector, if it's bullish, are going to look like this. They've already run up. So that's my only problem with that kind of software, is that it tends to spot the ones that are already made the move, so to speak. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, Frank's got one more here before we call it a day. BFY. You're long at $2.75. All right, I'm getting a weekly load, but I'm sure not getting any of the daily. Isn't that interesting? Let's give it a second to load here. Took 70, you bought it at 2. Is this the right stock? I don't think it was ever at 7. Check that for me, okay? All right, let's see what else we got here. SOFI. Let's see about this one. Okay, holding a small position. All right, well, if you've held it this long, might as well keep holding it. And if it's a small position, then hopefully you're not, feeling too much pain here. But all right, so on a positive side, okay, if we go to the weekly chart over here, notice that these bullish fair value gaps are getting filled now. This one probably won't, okay? But let me just take a look at a little bit more. It's a heck of a retracement. Okay. So we've got a owl that's starting to come up. Oh boy. Okay. So if we don't get a turnaround by the end, in other words, I think my line in the sand here would have to be right here. Okay. Right below the first bar of this fair value gap. Okay. So maybe down in this area here. And the reason I say that is because it looks like they're going to balance the market by going into these bullish fair value gaps and then go back up, if it's going to go back up. Now, the downside is that this trend is shifted and they're going to target down here. So that's why if they go below here, they're going here, okay? So since you've ridden it down this far, why don't you give it a few more points and see if you get a rebound from here, okay? All right, so the daily chart is showing a downtrend, okay? There's no question about it, and it hasn't reversed yet. I'm just saying there's a potential that we could see a reversal after these fair value gaps, okay, have been completed. All right. And again, this is kind of, if you get in up here, all right, this is the risk you can take on a pullback like that. Okay. So you got to be careful. And if you notice here, you had a ton of these huge wicks here. The interesting thing about wicks and even needling into fair value gaps that I have found is even you have one wick, if you come up and get a second wick, the chances of that being a top now increase greatly. One wick, not always. If you get one wick, you could still not get a change in structure, okay? But if you get two and you get a change in structure, then at that particular point, that's a pretty good bet we're going down, okay? Vice versa for the other way, okay? And the same thing with the fair value gaps. If you hit one fair value gap, and it usually can make 1 or 2 or even 3 more penetrations. But as long as the bottom of the fair value gap holds, then that should be okay. That's what I've noticed lately. You're getting a little bit more into the fair value gaps these days than you used to. It used to be one time in a bounce, but usually it's now 2 or 3. Okay. All right, Frank's back. All right. Okay, so it was BFLY. Okay, good. BFLY. All right, so you long at $2, okay? And you're sitting at sold 75% at $4, okay? Green PTS. All right, a lot of wicks on this baby, okay? Wick up here, wick up here, wick up here. we so far have this bearish fair value gap holding here. Okay. We had this one. This one was okay here. We penetrated this one. So we got a bigger one here. I would say since you sold some already and you just got 25%, that I would probably at this point see how the market, since you got two bullish PTFs, I would see how the market responds to this. Okay. I mean, you could go down, to $3. Okay. That's possible. All right. So not out of the question. But from here, you could get a situation where this fair value gap holds here. I just don't like the weekly chart shows bearishness, even though this is bullish. We'll see. And so this one held here. So yeah, I think it's worth a hold with a stop below here. Okay. Yep. Okay. Got that one. All right. Okay, cool. All right. Anybody else? You had me worried there. In the beginning, we only had like a few, like maybe 4 or 5 stocks, and they weren't coming in. So now you guys came back big time. All right. So let's see what we got. And we're still going. Lowell, how are you? BCRX. BCRX. All right. Let's see what we got cooking there. Bullish. You're long already. Okay. I don't like the wicks on the weekly chart, but I don't think that's loaded yet. That looks like Frank's. Okay. So hold on one second. There you go. Okay. All right. That's better. All right. So let's see what we got here. Bullish. All right. Notice that PTF went from red to green. Does that 25% of the time. That means it was wrong. Okay. So it's right about 75%, wrong about 25. So it corrected itself. So in this case here, I love this move off the bottom with the fair value gap. See that? That's what you kind of look for. Break in structure like that. Okay. These fair value gaps in sequential with that type of thing. So yeah, I like that one. Okay. Let's put that one as a buy, and I'll tell you where the target should be on that. You should target the high as a minimum. Okay. And I mean, if you wanted to take a little partial here, okay, but that's not worth it. I would target here, stop here. Okay. So let's put that on the buy list. Whoops. Okay. That one looks good. Low. I like that. All right. ANIK. Oh boy. Another good one. Notice how on the weekly chart, prices closed above this fair value gap. Okay. We may get a pullback, but that's a good sign. That's a good sign. This is a good sign. Break in structure was down here at what, 11? Where'd the pyramid have you go in? Almost at 11 over here. All right. So kind of a little bit of a late entry here on this, but you're getting in. Oh boy, this could be a big one here. Okay, so I'm just figuring out the target on this. Give me 1 second. It just took out liquidity here. Beautiful. Notice the big move off. All right, couple of things here. Got to get through this. Okay. We do have a change in structure here on the daily. kind of got to get above here, but we did have a little change in structure, which matches the daily here. So I think it's worth the trade. Kind of breakaway here, and another gap here. You got to put your stop. You don't need to use the pyramid. You can put it under here, under the first bar of the second fair value gap. You shouldn't go down here. Okay, you already did. Okay, and this is a breakaway fair value gap down here. So those very rarely get filled, but this one did, and this one kind of did, but for safety, I'd put it down here. And then I would target this way up here, 28 for double your money. And I'd take a partial here. Okay. So partial at 18 and target 28. And what's that? That is a nice one. ANIK. Okay. That one's a good one. Okay. Those last two are really good. All right. Let's see. NLY. Okay, so red PTF, okay, that causes me pause. All right, let me just see what else we got cooking here. We did not take out equity here, okay. All right, so that is, when I have a red PTF and we haven't taken out equity, and that PTF says that equity should be taken out, I kind of sit back and take a hard look at that, because even though it seems kind of bullish now, it's bearish on the daily chart, and we need to take that equity out. Now, once we take that equity out, oh boy, then we want to look for a long trade, okay? But for right now, no go. Okay, makes sense? All right. All right, Ben, are we entering a wave 4 on the major markets? Frank, you need to subscribe to the MOR report. We got it all in there. All right, so let's move on here. TSM. TSM. Let's see what we got here. Long 100% plus gain. Well, it's due for a correction. Look at that weekly chart. Oh my gosh. More highs are coming. The question is, how much of a pullback are we getting? Well, that's a strong owl there. You got a fair value gap here we could pull back into. Notice that we, of course, we'll see how the week ends. We've got a couple more hours. But so far, we've closed below that fair value gap. And I imagine, yeah, don't go long on this for sure. All right. We have some bearish ones here. And we have this bullish wick here. Just so you know, if you're ever trading and you see something like this, see that? I see it all the time. Not all the time, but quite often on the NASDAQ, day trading. All right. The purpose of that manipulation wick is to take everybody out of the market. Okay. So they can run it up one more time. And that's exactly what they did. You see that a lot. Okay. So anyway, that's what happened there. Okay. And now we're moving back down. So we haven't technically had a change in trend on the weekly. So if you're long term, so far you wouldn't do anything. But I can tell you, you drew a trend line like this, okay, that if you break below here, you may want to take some off, okay? Now, we had a little bit of a break in structure here, and we had a bearish fair value gap, and it was respected. So the interesting thing is they shouldn't take this wick out if the trend's going to continue, okay? If the trend is changing, they'll take that out. So that would be an excellent place to put your stop as well. Okay, so that's 320, almost pretty much where the weekly chart would break the trend line. Okay. But yeah, I kind of would be, I'd have some set stops here. So you don't give it all back, okay? Or give a lot of it back. TSM. All right, add more. Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry, the same stock. No, I wouldn't add more. Okay, not until we're sure this move down is over. Now, another way you could do this is bear flag it. Okay, if you get above here on the add-on, you could go long and put your stop under here on the add-on. So let's say, you had, 500 shares of this, okay, and you wanted to add on 200. Well, if we close above the bull flag line, add on another one, and put your stop for the 200 shares under there. All right, that way you treat it as a separate trade. All right, but you got to be careful here because you got some bearish fair value gaps. I kind of want to add on if it came down a little more, maybe. Okay. All right, Ed, more report is great. Thank you, Ed. I put a lot of effort in it. Okay, I do it over the weekend and get it out by Sunday, and basically prepare you for the week upcoming based on the major indexes as well. So thank you for saying that. All right, BETR. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so all right, let's see what we got here. Well, this is an interesting one, Stuart. All right, so I love the fact that we sold off and we're finding some support at that fair value gap on the weekly chart. Sweet. And notice we got this green and this green. We got this now green. So that's kind of interesting, okay? My only thing is we do have a few fair value gaps. So when I see a bottom like this holding and we get a break from the bottom, I'd like to see a fair value gap form. We do have them here, which I like, and this one's respected. And we did get a pyramid here. Okay, we don't have we do have a little bit of a change in structure here, but we don't have a change in structure yet on the primary. So there's a break in structure and a change in structure. Okay, so we got a change in structure here. All right, but not a break. Okay, so I think I'd kind of wait for that break in structure first. And I imagine we will get a fair value gap when we get that. Okay. But yes, I love this one. Okay. I'd love to put this one on a buy because I'm pretty certain it will break that. But in terms of being more studious, you want to wait for that break in structure up here. Okay. And that's a dominant pyramid down. Okay. So if I could put it down as a buy at 36.97, I would tell you to do that. Okay. So I guess because that didn't break structure, I have to put this, unfortunately, on the watch list. But I'm going to put a star by it because please bring that back next week. And hopefully we all can go long on it. All right, so let's see what we got. FIS. Okay, so let's check out FIS here. All right. Red PTF. So you're looking for a short here. We'll probably get up into this fair value gap here. Let's see how far it goes up. But I love the short. Okay, I'm agreeing on the short. My thing is I think we're going to get a bounce. We got to rebalance. When you have multiple fair value gaps on both these time frames, it's hard to know exactly which one that's going to stop at. All right, there's probably some people that are really a little more skilled than I am at that may actually be able to tell you what to do on that. We took equity out here, so I really like that for a long position, not a short position, but we do have that situation there. So I would say at this time, no short yet. This is concerning that we took out equity, okay? And the PTFs are all red. So I'm trying to think if there's more equity to take out down here. I'm sure there is. There's probably down in here. I guess maybe down in this area here. So here, let's do this. Let's bring this back for a short, FIS. For a short. Let's bring that back next week. And what I want to see is, let's see which one of these fair value gaps is going to hold. And honestly, if it's a short trade, this one should, I think, because this is an OFID, okay? Order flow institutional drill to the downside. So we shouldn't get above this order block here. So based on that, I'm just seeing that now. So based on that, this should be the fair value gap that holds. So I guess I'm more skilled than I realized. Okay, so fair value gap there. Pretty sure that one should hold. So we should get, let's see if we get the consequence encroachment up to about 53, and it could go as high as 55 before it turns around. Okay, but yeah, it makes sense for a short, but a little bit more to the upside on that. Let's go to FISY. Did I type that in right? FISY. Don't see that one coming up. How about FICO? Okay. Let's see. Looks like you typed it in again. No. Okay, so on this one here for a short, green PTF, no. Okay, you missed the short on this, I believe. Big wick, equity, inverted fair value gap. This is looking like a long to me. I know this is red, which is going to keep me from going long, so I'd have to wait and see how that turns out. So I would imagine this will come down here. If we find support here and move back up, then that is going to be bullish. But so far, these fair value gaps, bearish ones, haven't quite held, okay? So we'll see. Now, if we invert this bullish one, then yeah, but by then we'll almost already be down at another bottom. So, you know, not quite as perfect. Pyramids got you short, okay? But they got you short way back up in here, okay? So hold off on a short on that one. There's just a kind of opposing things on that. Let me just see, took out equity there. There is another equity point down here, okay? So that could, if this reverses and goes back down, that's probably where we're heading. Then I'd be looking for a long position, actually, okay? So maybe not enough room for a short, but maybe wait it out for a long, okay? Hopefully that helps, okay? All right, hey, my pleasure, my pleasure. See, now we're over an hour. I knew it'd pick up. All right, good. All right, so I think that's it for today. I'm going to go over the winners for the day, okay? So let me do that real quick. Okay, wait, we got one more. FISV. This will be the last one, okay? And this is from Lowell, and this was for a short too. Lowell, I think you missed the short on this already, okay? This would be like chasing a trend in the opposite direction. All right. Maybe a short if this comes up halfway on this fair value gap here. But again, equity taken here, equity taken here. You've taken out some of the major equities here. So yeah, I think it's too far along. Okay. So I would pass on that. All right, let's go over what we got here. All right, so I'm going to read off my list here. All right, so in the ones I like, it's Coin, C-O-I-N, LYB, DOW, D-O-W, PCKY, and ANIK. Now, on the watch list, we got a lot. SHOP, S-H-O-P, ALAB, SWBI, OKLO, Silver, SLV, BETR with a star, Stuart, I think that's yours, FIS short as a possible on a watch list. So the watch list, you don't take those, but you bring them back next week, okay? And we'll take a look at them. So, on the watch list, I think silver and BETR are close to converting into trades for next week, okay? So we'll see how that goes. All right, have a good week. Don't forget to turn back your clocks. I think we do that this Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. And always use risk control, and we'll see you back here next week. Thanks so much for coming, and we appreciate you giving us a like as well on the YouTube situation. Okay, thanks.